Well, the Mets' 8-game losing streak mercifully comes to an end as Pete Alonso hits a walk-off 3-run home run in the 10th inning to salvage the last game against the Rangers. Big win for the Mets. They needed it. It was kind of a season-saving win. If they lose that game yesterday, I know the Reds and the Giants lost, but still, you want to be able to still continue to control your own destiny and still be in a position to make the playoffs. Now, I've said for a while now, I don't know that this team deserves to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. But you know what? You get there and anything can happen. I don't have any faith that this team will continue to win and continue to... we've just seen this too many times from them this year where they have a big win and you think it's going to carry over, and it really just doesn't. And hopefully I'm wrong. You have an off day today. I know they needed the off day because their bullpen has been used a lot and they needed to get those guys a day, but it's kind of a bad day to have off because you want to kind of continue your momentum off of last night. Will they? I don't know. And a lot of people are saying, Pete Alonso saved the season. Ron Darling said it on the broadcast yesterday that he prolonged their season in 2024 and that he saved their season in 2025. And that's true. If he doesn't hit that home run, who knows what the next guy does, and the guy after that, who knows? But the guy who really saved the Mets season yesterday, it wasn't Pete Alonso. It wasn't even Nolan McLean, who once again looks like an ace every time he goes out. It was Ryan Stanek. And Ryan Stanek is a guy that, me and nobody else wants on this team. We've been asking him to be DFA'd for months. But he goes out in the 10th inning yesterday, strands the inherited runner, even though he does get to third base with one out in the inning. He strands him there, he does what he needs to do, and he gives the Mets a chance to win. Now, if the Mets go down in that 10th inning, I don't think they win that game, because the Mets have shown all year that once they're down, even if it's by one run, they don't have much fight in them, and they're not able to come back, even from a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead. Stanek could have easily gone out there last night and given up 2 runs in that inning, and the game would have been over, because the Mets were not going to come back from that. Turns out, Alonso had a 3-run home run, it wouldn't have mattered, but, situations change. But overall, Stanek was great, and this is why I think the Mets haven't DFA'd him, why they haven't gotten rid of him yet, because when the pressure is on, Stanek seems to be at his best. He's a great playoff pitcher, and right now, it's the playoffs for the Mets. I know it's not technically the playoffs, but you have to go out there and win every day or close to it in order to make the playoffs. You have 3 teams now breathing down your neck. The Mets are now 77 and 73. They're a game and a half up on the Giants, 1 in the loss column, but they own the tiebreaker against the Giants, and the Giants have a bit of a tough schedule coming up as well. They're 2 up now on the Diamondbacks, who the Diamondbacks were dead. The Mets let them back in because of their failing. The Diamondbacks, they do not hold currently the tiebreaker on the Diamondbacks. They're 2 games up on them. That goes into interdivision records because they were 3-3 against the Diamondbacks this year, and now they're 2.5 up on the Reds, but they don't have the tiebreaker. So really it's 2, because I believe it's 2 in the loss column. So it's a 2-game lead over the Reds. So you have 4 teams, including the Mets, that are all within basically 2 games of each other for that last wildcard spot. So you have to win every day. And maybe Stanek is now proving why he's still on the team, because he's able to pitch well in these situations. He's been in a million big-time spots. He knows how to react. His fastball was up and moving yesterday, which we haven't seen in a while from him. You saw that emotion from him after getting the last out. Maybe this is just what he needs. He needs this extra juice to really be the effective pitcher that he has been in the past. I don't know. But going into the Mets situation with the Diamondbacks, it's a little more complicated than the other ones in terms of the tiebreaker. They go by interdivision records, and right now the Mets are 23-23 interdivision. So with 6 games left, they still have 3 against Washington and 3 against Miami, who we know the Mets always struggle against in division opponents, weaker opponents. The Mets always struggle. I mean, the Mets has struggled against everyone since June, but especially those 2 teams. Those 2 teams are feisty. They always play the Mets well, and those are going to be 6 of their tougher games, honestly. The Mets still have the Padres that they're going up against in this series, this starting Tuesday. That's going to be a tough one. They're also a team who's in a wild card spot right now, 5 games ahead of the Mets for the number 2 spot. And the Diamondbacks, they're 23-20 in their division, but they still have 9 left in their division. 3 against the Giants, that starts tonight. It's kind of like, who do you want to win there? You don't know, maybe have the Diamondbacks, or I would actually go for the Giants because the Mets own the tiebreaker over them, and then if they keep losing interdivision, then you're going to get the tiebreaker over them, over the Diamondbacks as well. So, I think you should be rooting for the Giants in this series, even though they're half a game up on the D-backs. Overall, it's better for the Mets if the Giants take 2 out of 3 in this series. And then they also have 3 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Padres. So they still have 9 games left in their division. If the Mets do their job and get over 500 against teams in their division, I think they have a good shot of holding the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks, but it's going to be close. It's going to be right down to the wire with the tiebreaker there. And if the season ended today, the Mets would be playing the Dodgers in the playoffs in the first round, a 3-game wildcard series in LA against the Dodgers, and it would be a tough one. Listen, the Mets have put themselves in a position where whoever they're playing, if they get into the playoffs, whoever they're playing is going to be favored, and you're going to have to go to their stadium. You're going to have to play 3 games in their home field. So, and we know how bad the Mets are away from Citi Field. So it's going to be tough no matter what, because they put themselves in this spot. If they were leading the division, if they had the lead over the Phillies, or they were ahead by a good amount in the wild card, maybe they were the number 1 wild card, then you could be talking about games in Citi Field. But the Mets have put themselves in a spot where no matter what, it's going to be tough in the playoffs. And Series 1 would be against the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers aren't the Dodgers this year. They've clearly regressed a little bit, but their pitching in a 3-game wildcard series is going to be tough to beat. So Mets have put themselves in a hole, and hopefully if they can get there, maybe they'll be rolling at the right time and can do a little damage in that series. Now, in this last series, we saw the 3 pitchers that Mets fans are excited about moving forward. And that's obviously, the names. It's McLean, it's Sproat, it's Tong. And McLean yesterday went out there and did what he's done in all 6 of his starts this year. He looks like an ace. Even when he doesn't have his best stuff, he's able to go out there and compete and give you 6 innings and really just look dominant at times, and looks like he's puzzling hitters, and they can't get a grasp on what he's doing. And that's what an ace does. He's able to confound hitters and make them look stupid sometimes. Even good hitters he can make look really bad at the plate. And he's proving time and time again that he is the ace of this team moving forward. All the talk about going out and getting an ace in the offseason, I don't think it's going to happen, because I think Stearns looks at this group of pitchers and says, well, I have 3 guys moving forward that I know can be in our rotation, and maybe even 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 top of the rotation kind of guys. So he's not going to go out there and get a big name pitcher unless it's someone that he could trade for that has a lot of control. Maybe that's a whole different scenario. But overall, there's good pitching in this system. Now, if you go back to Friday night, Tong obviously struggled, only gives you 2 outs in the game. He gives up 6 runs. He's not ready. And I know he got booed coming off the field after giving up the 6 runs. That's just crazy to me. This guy was called up, and we all wanted him called up, and I'm not going to play revisionist history and say that he shouldn't have been called up. We all thought he should be up. He dominated in AA, came up in his first couple starts in AAA, looked dominant there as well. There was no reason not to bring him up and try him out, but clearly he doesn't have the stuff yet. He needs that third pitch. He needs to work on his control. He was fine in his first 2 starts, but you saw the signs were there. He didn't have that out pitch. He didn't have that way to get good major leaguers to fish or to chase. They sit on his fastball, and they let everything else go because he can't throw it for strikes. If you can only throw your fastball for strikes, they're just going to sit on your fastball and let you throw balls. And that's what they did against him on Friday night. It worked. It was a good strategy. Apparently, Tong is going to stay in the rotation and get another start. I don't know how I feel about that. I think maybe they're just trying to have him figure it out in the major leagues, but having him figure it out when you're fighting for your playoff life, I don't know is the best scenario, and you don't want to ruin the kid's confidence when he's coming out of the game and getting booed by his home crowd. I mean, a 22-year-old kid who's making his 3rd major league start, I think is just wild stuff by the Citi Field crowd that night. It was just wild. And maybe they were booing the other players, not necessarily Tong, but it doesn't matter. A 22-year-old walking off the mound in his home with his home crowd booing him, it's going to have negative effects effects on him going forward. Hopefully not. Hopefully he has the type of mentality where he can get over that. But he's a 22-year-old kid. I think he's going to struggle with that a little bit. It's going to put more pressure on him, and that's not what he needs. And overall, Tong doesn't seem ready yet to be a top-of-the-line rotation guy in the major leagues. Sproat has looked pretty good. In his start on Saturday, he goes 6 innings, gives up 6 hits, 3 no walks, which is huge. If Sproat's not walking guys, he's usually pretty good. 3 strikeouts, no earned runs, and now through 2 starts, he's got in 12 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks, a 2.25 ERA, and a 1.08 WHIP. So no complaints with Sproat, and honestly, he's a guy who figures to be more of a mid to back end of the rotation kind of guy. But maybe he can, some guys get into the major leagues and they're better than what they were in the minors. So we'll see what happens with Sproat, but I'm happy with what I've seen so far. So overall, you've had mixed results out of these 3 kids, but if the season ended today and you're in a playoff spot against the Dodgers, who's starting for you? Sproat and McLean. McLean is a definite. McLean's probably starting game 1. And then you have Sproat. He's probably going to start game 3. Peterson in game 2. So these 2 guys are putting themselves in a position. Now they have to continue doing it over the rest of the season. They're going to have a couple of starts each going forward. But these guys are proving that they're the best that the Mets have right now. And, there's talk now. I think the plan tomorrow is for Clay Holmes to start and Manaea to come in a relief role and go back to a 5-man rotation. To me, that's a little bit too little too late. We've been clamoring for this since Manaea came back. He clearly was not stretched out. He was not able to go deep into games. He's really been struggling. Manaea or Clay Holmes, honestly, either of them, should have been put in a bullpen role sooner. And now you're doing it with 12 games left. The Mets have been slow to react with things all season long. I think their mentality was, we're going to figure things out. Things are going to get better. We're too good to be this bad. And it's really bit them here in the end. And with 12 games left, now you're moving Manaea to the bullpen, and now you're calling up these kids. I know McLean's been here for 6 starts, but Sproat and Tong really just got here. It's a little bit too late for me. Too little, too late. And this is a problem with Stearns, I think. I like him as an executive. I think going forward he's going to be fine. He's building a culture and a good organization here with the minor leagues, with the scouting, with the analytics and all that kind of stuff. He's going to build a world-class organization. But he's very slow to react. And I think sometimes it's almost too thoughtful with everything he does. And I think that's his big issue. And I think you have to react. If you're not going to go out there and trade for a pitcher at the deadline, then those guys should have been up then. And I really think at least, McLean and Tong, McLean and Sproat at that point should have been up. Tong was still in Double-A at that point and wasn't really in consideration for coming up. But it's really his inability to act in a quick manner, to me, is his downfall and what prevents the Mets from this year especially being a top of the line team. Because if McLean came up, a month before he did or 2 months before he did, you could be talking about a historic rookie season and a guy who could be winning Rookie of the Year, and maybe that would have really sparked the changes in this team earlier. Maybe then you could have moved Manaea to the bullpen. Maybe you could have moved Clay Holmes to the bullpen, and that would fix some other problems. I don't know. I'm playing revisionist history here. I'm not David Stearns. I don't run the Mets, but these little things tend to bother me when the fans see the moves clearly and David Stearns just doesn't do it. Like I said, I can sit here and criticize all day long. I'm not the one in the position, but it seems to me like there's just some uncertainty there with some of these moves. Now, if you're still here and you like this type of content, please consider subscribing, giving me a like, and comment whatever you want. Doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out. Listen, the Mets, my whole life, all we've heard from the Mets ownership and the Mets front office is, we want to be playing meaningful games in September. And now we're at the point as an organization where I think moving forward, we're always going to be playing meaningful games in September. But I don't really want to be playing meaningful games in September. The Mets are good enough, maybe not pitching-wise, but their offense should be carrying them to where we don't have to worry right now. We shouldn't have to worry about whether the Mets can make the last wildcard spot with a $330 million payroll. We just shouldn't. The Mets should be comfortable. They should be fighting it out with the Phillies for the division, honestly. And if not, they should be comfortably in a top 1 or 2 wildcard spot. They just should be. This National League turned out to be very top-heavy and very mediocre towards the middle and bottom, right? We thought that the National League was going to be a world beater. It hasn't really turned out to be that. They're still better than the American League. I don't think there's really anyone in the American League that comes close to the top teams in the National League. But overall, there's just a lot of mediocrity. And for the Mets to be part of that, with the payroll that they have and the stars that they have on this team, is just crazy to me. We shouldn't be playing meaningful games in September. Maybe for seeding, but not for trying to make it into the playoffs. And I think that's the issue that we all have right now. Is that, yes, yesterday's game was great. Stanek in the 10th inning, Nolan McLean going 6, looking like an ace, Pete Alonso hitting a walk-off home run. Great. We should all feel great about that. But we don't. Because all season long, this team has been struggling. And I have no faith that they're going to carry this over into the next series. The Padres might come in here and sweep the Mets. The Padres are a good team. And they're still fighting, they're 5 games up from the 3rd spot. They're comfortably in a wild card spot. They're going to make the playoffs. But they're still playing. They're still trying. I don't think that the Padres are going to come in here and roll over for the Mets. I just don't. So, overall, listen. Exciting win. Very nice win for the Mets yesterday. But I think it's a little bit too little, too late. And I don't know that it's going to carry them into being, getting hot at the right time and going into the playoffs on a roll. I hope so. I still have hope, but not really. Anyway, until next time, let's go Mets.